In 1977, Oprah Winfrey got demoted on live television after a botched hair treatment convinced her producers she couldn't be taken seriously as a news anchor. A decade later, she was the highest paid woman on television. 2 years after that, she bought her own show, something that had never been done before. Today, Oprah's media empire is worth between $3 and $4 billion. In this video, we're going to map out the entire Oprah money system from the $22,000 anchor desk job where she got demoted to one key decision in October 1988 that nobody in television had ever made until then. That one decision is the reason she walked away from network television with a multi-billion-dollar media machine. Let's get into it. Phase 1. The early years. Putting in the work. Oprah Winfrey was born in 1954 in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, to a teenage single mother named Vernita Lee, who worked as a housemaid. The house had no running water and no electricity. She grew up wearing dresses made from potato sacks, which got her bullied at school. Oprah's grandmother, Hattie Mae, taught her how to read at age 3, and by kindergarten, she was reading well enough that the teacher advanced her first grade on the very first day of school. By 17, Oprah had won the Miss Black Tennessee pageant and was reading the news on local Nashville radio station WVOL for $100 a week. By 19, Oprah Winfrey was the youngest news anchor and the first Black female news anchor on WLAC TV in Nashville. By 22, she was co-anchoring the evening news in Baltimore for WJZ-TV for $22,000 a year in salary. But the WJZ-TV executives didn't think Oprah Winfrey fit the anchor role. Jerry Turner, the channel's veteran anchor who Oprah was paired with, resented her presence at the desk and reportedly refused to speak to her off camera. The station tried to remake her on camera. They sent Oprah to the high-end salon in New York to fix her hair, and the chemical perm went so wrong that her hair fell out in large clumps, making her temporarily bald. While she was recovering, WJZ-TV ran a citywide ad campaign called What's an Oprah, plastered across Baltimore buses because their focus groups had shown that viewers couldn't even pronounce her name. By April 77, 8 months on the anchor desk, the station gave up and demoted her from the evening news entirely. By every traditional metric, Oprah Winfrey had failed in primetime news. WJZ-TV moved her into a struggling morning chat show called People Are Talking. But the moment she sat down on that couch in August 78, everything changed. Within months, People Are Talking was beating Phil Donahue in the Baltimore market. Phil Donahue was the king of daytime talk in America. He had been nationally syndicated since 1970 and pulled in roughly 8 million viewers a day. Oprah Winfrey was a demoted news anchor in one local market, eating into his viewership daily. Phase 2. The business dinner and first real acting contract. Oprah Winfrey hosted People Are Talking for 6 years, from 1978 to 1983. During that stretch, she got really good at one specific thing, making daytime TV actually interesting and appealing to a mostly female audience. The exact stuff that had made her wrong for the anchor desk, her openness, and being willing to cry on air with a guest, turned out to be the most valuable skill set you could have in daytime television. The same skills that didn't work in the newsroom had turned into her superpower on the talk show stage. In January 1984, WLS-TV in Chicago offered Oprah Winfrey $200,000 a year to take over their dying morning show, AM Chicago. The show was running last in its slot against Phil Donahue's nationally syndicated program. Oprah Winfrey accepted, moved to Chicago, and first went on the air January 2nd, 1984. Within 1 month, AM Chicago was #1 in its time slot. Within 3 months, the show had doubled its ratings, and by September 1984, AM Chicago had pulled from last to first in the entire Chicago submarket, outperforming Phil Donahue on his own turf. This is where most TV show hosts would sign a fat new contract and coast. But Oprah Winfrey did the opposite. She fired her existing agent in Los Angeles, then she hired a Chicago entertainment lawyer named Jeff Jacobs, who at the time was a partner at a small firm and had a reputation for aggressively negotiating in a city full of polite handshake deals. Her own description of Jacobs to Forbes years later was, "I've heard Jeff is a piranha. I like that. Piranha is good." Around this time, the film critic Roger Ebert started taking Oprah Winfrey out on dates, and on one of them, he ended up giving her the most important piece of business advice of her career. Ebert told her not to chase a network anchor job or stay local, but to syndicate AM Chicago nationally, the way he had syndicated his own film review show, At the Movies with Gene Siskel. He then pulled out a cocktail napkin and a ballpoint pen, and ran the math out for her, showing her that national syndication would pay her roughly 40 times what she was making at WLS-TV. That same year, in 1985, Oprah Winfrey filmed The Color Purple for director Steven Spielberg. Her acting fee for the film was $35,000. The film was released in December 1985, grossed $98 million at the domestic box office on a $15 million budget, and earned 11 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. Oprah Winfrey received a Best Supporting Actress nomination for her role as Sophia. She later called The Color Purple the best $35,000 she ever made, because it opened up a national audience that knew Oprah Winfrey's name before The Oprah Winfrey Show was even in syndication. Phase 3. From actor to national television host. In September 1986, AM Chicago was rebranded as The Oprah Winfrey Show and went national through a syndicator called King World Productions. The show launched in 138 markets. This is where Oprah's lawyer, Jeff Jacobs, sharked his way into getting Oprah a killer deal. He negotiated that Oprah would get 25% of the gross revenue King World earned from the show. And the first year revenue, that was roughly $125 million. Oprah Winfrey personally took home around $30 million, which made her one of the highest paid people in television in 1986, ranking behind only Bill Cosby and Johnny Carson on Forbes' list of top television earners that year. Then came Jeff Jacobs' second shark move. He started pushing for Oprah to take ownership and equity in every single deal she touched. From there, every time Oprah Winfrey agreed to renew The Oprah Winfrey Show for another season, she received additional shares of King World Productions as part of the deal. The contract literally paid her twice to keep saying yes to making the show. That same year, Oprah Winfrey incorporated her own company called Harpo Productions, which is Oprah spelled backwards. 2 years later, in October 1988, Harpo formally took over full production responsibility for The Oprah Winfrey Show. Harpo invested $10 million to acquire a 100,000 square foot production facility and soundstage in Chicago. And by 1990, Oprah Winfrey had spent another $10 million renovating the building, and Harpo Studios opened as her permanent production home. Oprah Winfrey was 34 years old. She had just bought her own show. This had never happened in television history. Not by a woman, not by a black entertainer, not by a daytime host. Bill Donahue, the guy who had invented the entire talk show format in 1967, was still working as an employee of his distributor. He was a salaried performer collecting a paycheck, but not Oprah. After October 1988, every dollar that the show generated, every syndication deal, every international license to one of the eventual 148 countries it aired in, every rerun, every commercial slot sold, flowed back to a company Oprah Winfrey controlled. Most top talk show hosts of the era earned $5 to $20 million a year. Oprah Winfrey, through ownership, was pulling cash flows that would peak in the hundreds of millions a year. By the mid-1990s, Harpo Productions was running the show on 85% margins, about $30 million a year in production costs against revenues of over $196 million. That is $166 million in annual gross profit from one asset. And by 1995, Oprah's personal net worth hit $340 million. By 2003, Forbes named her the first black woman billionaire in history. The Oprah Winfrey Show ran for 25 seasons, over 4,500 episodes. It ended May 25th, 2011. By then, it had won 47 daytime Emmys, aired in 148 countries, and won a permanent fixture in roughly 20 million American households a day. Forbes later estimated the show plus Harpo's other operations generated nearly $2 billion in net revenue across that run. Real quick, consider this your cocktail napkin moment. Ebert pulled out a pen and showed Oprah her next business play. Now, I don't have a pen, but I do have a subscribe button, and clicking it would get a breakdown like this every single week. All right, back to Oprah, and let's see how this model scales from a local daytime show to a global empire. Phase 4, from talk show host to network owner. While the Oprah Winfrey Show was printing money, Oprah Winfrey was also quietly building out the rest of the media empire around it. In 1999, she signed a joint venture with Hearst Magazines to launch O, the Oprah magazine. Hearst put up the operational risk, the printing, the distribution, the staff, and the warehousing. Oprah Winfrey licensed her name and provided editorial direction. At its peak, O was selling 2 million copies per month. A year later, Oprah became a founding investor in Oxygen Media, a cable network launched alongside AOL, ABC, Paul Allen, and a couple Hollywood producers. Just 7 years later, NBC Universal bought Oxygen for $925 million. Oprah's exact stake was never disclosed publicly, but she walked with a meaningful chunk of that exit. Notice the pattern. At every decision point, King World, Hearst, Oxygen, Oprah chose to take equity instead of just income, and every one of those decisions paid out spectacularly regularly. By the late 2000s, Oprah was facing a real problem now. The Oprah Winfrey Show was approaching the end of its life. Her audience had aged with her, and daytime TV viewership was collapsing as the internet was pulling away all younger viewers. But Oprah had a strategy. In 2008, a year before she ever announced the end of the show, Harpo Productions quietly entered into a 50-50 joint venture with Discovery Communications to build a cable network. In 2009, Oprah Winfrey publicly announced that the Oprah Winfrey Show would end in 2011 and would be replaced with the Oprah Winfrey Network. On January 1st, 2011, the same year that the talk show wrapped, OWN launched as her replacement asset. Unfortunately, the first 3 years of OWN were a disaster. The network averaged 264,000 primetime viewers in year one, which was basically the same number Discovery Health had been pulling before the rebrand. By May 2012, cumulative losses had hit $330 million. Oprah Winfrey publicly admitted she had a nervous breakdown over it, so she did what only an owner could do. She put herself directly back on camera as the on-air talent, fired most of the executive team, and in December 2012, partnered with filmmaker Tyler Perry to bring scripted content to the network. By July 2013, OWN was cash flow positive. Then came the monetization. In late 2017, Discovery wrote Harpo a $70 million check to acquire an additional 24.5% of Oprah Winfrey Network. First cash payment Oprah Winfrey had received from the network in the 10 years since the venture formed. In December 2020, Discovery acquired another 22% of OWN, taking total ownership to 95%. This time, Oprah Winfrey didn't take cash. She took $35 million worth of Discovery stock instead. Around the same time, in 2018, Oprah Winfrey signed a multi-year content deal with Apple TV+. The exact terms of the deal were never disclosed publicly, but Forbes estimated she earned roughly $10 million in 2020 alone from it, with total compensation across the deal reaching 9 figures. Phase 5, from network owner to venture capitalist. Perhaps the cleanest single example of how Oprah Winfrey's brand converts into actual money is when Oprah wrote a $43.2 million check for stock in a publicly traded company in 2015. The company was Weight Watchers. She bought 6.36 million shares at $6.79 per share, a 10% equity stake in the company. She also got warrants on another 3.5 million shares, a board seat, and a long-term agreement to use her name and image in the company's marketing. When the news of the deal became public, Weight Watchers stock more than doubled within a single trading day, going from $6.79 to over $13. On paper, Oprah's $43 million stake was worth roughly $90 million by closing bell that same day. And at its peak in mid-2018, the position was worth more than $400 million. But Oprah Winfrey didn't buy Weight Watchers because she wanted exposure to the diet industry. She bought it because the company had a credibility problem her personal brand could solve overnight. Weight Watchers had been losing members for 10 straight quarters, was carrying $140 million in debt, and had been searching for an effective spokesperson ever since Jennifer Hudson parted ways with the brand in 2014. Oprah's presence on the cap table was worth more to Weight Watchers than the $43 million she paid for the shares, because her endorsement converted directly into market capitalization the moment the deal was announced. But starting around 2022, the rise of GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy began to gut the entire weight management industry. Patients on these medications were losing 15 to 20% of their body weight in under a year, with no calorie counting, no point tracking, and no support meetings. The entire core product that Weight Watchers had built over 60 years suddenly looked obsolete almost overnight. Then, in December 2023, in a People magazine cover story, Oprah Winfrey herself disclosed that she had been using GLP-1 medication as part of her own weight management. The most prominent public face of Weight Watchers was personally choosing to disrupt her over the product she had spent 8 years promoting on television. Then, a couple years later, Oprah announced she would not stand for re-election to the Weight Watchers board. The stock dropped 24.5% in a single after-hours session and was already down roughly 85% from its 2018 peak by that point. Oprah Winfrey then donated her remaining shares, worth roughly $6 million at the depressed share price, to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Most people read the headlines and assumed she had taken a loss on the entire investment. But that's not the case. Across her full 9-year Weight Watchers relationship, between her spokesperson fees, the 2 million shares she actually sold for $110 million in 2018, and the residual proceeds from the rest of her position, Oprah Winfrey pulled out roughly $221 million in total against her $43 million investment. That is a clean 5x on the outcome. The donation was a smart way to exit a deteriorating position, take a tax benefit, and end the chapter on a philanthropic note instead of a fire sale headline. The Money Map. This is the Oprah Winfrey Money Map. The show, after 25 years of syndication and ownership, generated an estimated $2 billion in pre-tax profit profit for Harpo Productions. After taxes and reinvestment, that alone is somewhere in the $1 to $1.4 billion range over time. Own net payouts, including the $70 million in 2017 and the $35 million in 2020 Discovery stock, plus residual ownership, sit at around 150 all in. 150 million, that is. Weight Watchers cleared roughly $221 million. Real estate sits at a current portfolio of approximately 150 to 200 million. The remaining $1.3 to $1.5 billion is a mix of book royalties, magazine licensing income from O Magazine, Apple TV Plus production deals, speaking fees that range from $1 to $3 million per appearance, equity in private companies, and basic compounding from having $1 billion liquid for 25 years invested in normal market index funds. If you enjoyed this, subscribe for more breakdowns about the smartest people in business. I'm Buster. I'll see you next time. Peace.